This is Charlie Kao with TravelMole with George Mitchell in Singapore. George is the CTO and co-founder of Circos. Did I pronounce that right?
Circos.
Circos and brand Karma. And without further ado, George, tell us how did these two companies or one company came about, and what are your core competencies?
So we're one company. The technical name of the company is Circos, but our first product was called Brand Karma. It became known that way in the marketplace. My two co-founders and I worked together at Microsoft about a decade ago, and we had the luxury of working at a company with a lot of resources and got to know each other, and realized that we worked well together. We had complementary skills and yet a lot of the same interests. One of them was travel. And we were naive enough to think if we just built cool technology, we would be accepted by the travel industry. That turned out to be a little bit of an oversimplification of what actually happened. But we built a technology for social media, and it applied to the travel industry. And when we first started, we realized that with new technology, it's hard to get people to adopt it. And so we started an agency business. And that was to help hotels understand how to work with our tool. And it actually became this positive feedback cycle where our technology would improve based on what our agency practice had learned, and then our agency would actually perform better because it was using our technology tool. And then a couple years ago, we saw VR and got excited by its potential, and
virtual reality.
And we've been focused on VR pretty much primarily the last year and a half. And we really believe that the social media revolution that happened starting 10 years ago, we're going to see a similar thing on the VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality frontier.
Going back to the technology that Circos is, I would say, famed for, especially in Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that technology and why you're so well known, you and your partners.
Sure. So when we started, we saw that social media was this emerging platform, and there was a huge amount of data, specifically in the reviews that were being written about hotels. A lot of insights about hotels, and we really believed in social media's ability to democratize information. And so what we wrote a natural language processor that could go through and understand reviews and really understand what people were saying in volume. And we went out and grabbed data from all of the OTAs and review sites. And of course, hotels back then wanted nothing to do with it. They were not big fans of TripAdvisor. They didn't think that this was really going to be an emerging thing, and so we had to bang on a lot of doors and say, you guys should really start caring about this stuff. And then fast forward several years, and then all of a sudden hotels started to realize, people are reading reviews and they do really care about what people are saying. And so then what it became about was, how good is your technology? Does it understand Asian languages? Does it understand specific markets? And that's really where we started to be differentiated in terms of our ability to mine the data, the artificial intelligence and machine learning we were using to get insights out of the data. And we think VR provides a similar opportunity in that social media is just essentially text. Reviews is just text. Once we talk about VR and understanding spaces and where people are looking and what people are interested in and what their eyes are focused on, you get a much more powerful insight in terms of aspects of your hotel that are good or bad.
The technology for VR, availability of content creation, users with the technology to view and experience the VR. How long of a cycle do you think it will be for adoption by, well, first off, obviously you have to get somebody to pay for the production, so for them to understand and willing to pay?
It's a great question, and actually one of the problems we're actually now trying to tackle. We're building a tool right now that it makes it easy for videographers and photographers who don't know anything about writing code to create VR experiences. And big companies, Facebook, Google, are investing in 3D creation tools, virtual reality creation tools. Also the game engines. So if you look at any modern high-performance virtual reality application, it's usually based on a game engine. They've invested big money in making easier and easier to use tools. And finally, post-production software. An example is the Adobe Creative Cloud is one of the most popular suites of tools that are used by photographers and video editors, and they now have VR support out of the box. So all of these things are going to make it easier and easier to create. The hardware companies have invested billions of dollars in making the hardware, and now they understand that there's a real lack of content. And just like YouTube taught us about how we could learn how you could accelerate the growth of online video, it wasn't the studios that solved the online video problem, it was YouTube, and it was creators, individual people that were making the content. So we really believe that if VR is going to take off and become a thing, we need to put the creation tools in the hands of as many people as possible and make it as easy as possible.
What kind of a box hardware do you need to render?
So there's different kinds. There are different kinds of VR. For the top of the line VR experiences that are the ones that blow your socks off, you need a top of the line box, and it's a problem for the industry. Interestingly, last week Sony launched the PlayStation VR, which runs on a PlayStation 4, and that's probably one of the most economical solutions right now. But there's also a different kind of VR that's based on video that is lightweight enough that it can actually run on mobile phones. So arguably the most popular headset right now is the Samsung Gear VR headset, which takes a Samsung phone and that actually powers the entire experience and plugs into it.
Don't burn your ear off, huh?
You gotta... I'm not gonna say anything about that.
Sorry. Well, so they're addressing, the industry as a whole are addressing, and they'll find solutions to make it more lightweight, really, at the end of the day.
Well, so there's the creation piece, and then there's the viewing piece, right? And the industry's got some big hurdles to climb in terms of the size of the goggles, even taking away the processor speed. Moore's law, all right, tells us that in 6 months the power is going to double and the price is going to be cut in half. So on the rendering side, I think VR industry doesn't need to worry about that. The overall hardware and computer industry is going to solve that problem for them. On the goggle side, that's really where the real challenge is. How are you going to make those goggles smaller, more comfortable, more lightweight? And then also as we think about not just VR, but augmented reality and mixed reality, there's Microsoft has a device called the HoloLens, which is an all-in-one computer that actually does amazing things with mixed reality. And then of course, there's the billion-dollar behemoth in Florida called Magic Leap, and nobody really knows what their product does yet, but the demos look pretty amazing.
You mentioned one customer, I think Fairmont?
Yeah.
And
Shangri-La.
Shangri-La. And I know that since I tried it the first time at your stand yesterday,
right.
I met two of the major international hotel groups. To my surprise, they are also using it. One for developers, a way to show developers what they can develop.
Yep.
And another one for clients for remote destination properties for prospective guests and travelers. So I guess it's coming along.
There's a lot of uses besides which just sort of the virtual travel use. There's, if you think about ballrooms and configuring exhibition halls like this building right here, the cost of showing different configurations here, of having a crew come up and set up lights and stages and different things. If you were to map this entire area, your events team could show any infinite number of configurations in terms of helping sell the ballroom. That's just one example of the kinds of things that can be done.
And back to software development, anything new further than this in the pipeline that consumers are asking for and you're addressing?
I think the biggest thing that's going to happen is things related to computer vision. So we're already seeing some interesting research projects coming out of places like Google, where Google has taken its static 360 photos from Google Maps and is integrating them into actual VR experiences where you can move around in VR. And what makes that possible is technology that lets you use just camera data to create a 3D model of an object. And when you think about the big production costs of VR, something like building a video game, the biggest production cost is creating the 3D assets. You need to hire artists and designers who can build these things, and it's an incredibly manual task. It's difficult. If we get to the point where computers can do this for us and we have a device that you could set down in a room and it could automatically map the whole room, it will revolutionize what it takes to create VR.
Thank you very much, George Mitchell with Circos.
Charlie, thank you so much.